We can, all of us, can't we, admire great works of art. Not that we're ever going to own them. We can, of course, make copies. As Picasso said, good artists copy, great artists steal. Although he stole that quote from T.S. Eliot. It all depends in the end how good the copy is, how well it turns out. Well, there you go, nice. Quite like that. I think the hat's a great addition. Months ago, Harry and Briani Anscombe, along with their 3 children, Alice, Eleni and Rocky, made a radical change to their lives.
We'd been in London and knew we wouldn't really want to bring up a family there or be able to afford to. So we just thought, why not? Whilst they're young, let's move down and create a life down here.
They decided on North Cornwall, a place of rugged cliffs and powerful seas.
Surfing is obviously a big part of it. You know, being by the north coast of Cornwall where the waves are so good, being able to bring the kids up by the sea, it's just a really exciting opportunity.
Harry, a former TV journalist, runs a small production company in London, but wants to set up a second office in Cornwall, recreating a live-work lifestyle similar to one he enjoyed in America.
What we loved about living in California was that combination of being outdoors, but also having a sort of solid creative industry there. We work in video production and product design, and there's a lot of creative people down here who work in those sorts of industries now. It's something we've dreamt of doing, and we're going to do now, hopefully.
It seems a radical move, but the new house they've designed as their base for all this is even more adventurous, on an 8-acre former dairy farm, which they've bought for £490,000. They're currently crammed into a tiny cottage which came with the plot. But it's in front of this that they intend to build an America-inspired home, the likes of which Cornwall has never seen. So this is the site?
Yes.
It's a good site.
You think?
Great location. So what's it you're going to build?
Well, what we're building is a family surf house with a practical end, somewhere with all the rooms in the right places and somewhere that we can bring up a family.
Yeah.
But then it also has this kind of sexy end, which is a floating steel-framed glass box. We have this visual in our mind, which is the house that was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, in this house in Illinois. And
in the film?
In the film, yeah. And we saw that film and thought, that's the house, that's the atmosphere we want to create.
What Harry's referring to is a striking steel-framed pavilion immortalised in the cult 80s film Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The pavilion, designed by David Haid, is part of a larger house, designed in the same powerful language by his mentor, James Speyer, in 1953. But Speyer's iconic example of American modernism was intended to sit in a forest in Illinois, not on an exposed valley near the Cornish coast. Have you visited it?
No, but we've seen lots of photos, and it's become a bit of an obsession to honour it, you know, and try and create that same atmosphere they have in that house here.
And was that your brief to the architect? Like, just give me that house? Because that is a bit of a... I'm sorry, if somebody said that to me, I'd kind of... my shoulders would sag and I'd moan at the idea of simply having to copy another house.
It's not a direct copy, is it?
It came from the original designs.
Harry and Briani commissioned the technical drawings for this audacious Speyer-inspired dwelling, the foundations of which have already been started. The centrepiece will be a vast, single, 220-square-metre open-plan living space made from 40 chunky Speyer-like steel beams. The Speyer-inspired glass walls will also be big, 4 metres tall, though they'll be separated by areas of cladding to save some money. The impression ought to be of a structure floating out over the valley. Adjoining, there'll be a more pragmatic bedroom wing, set back into the hillside, also made from steel but altogether more modest and hidden behind timber cladding. The house will be accessed via a walkway leading down from the hillside above. Immediately inside, your eye will be led by an overhead strip of glass 13 metres long towards the heart of the home. An enormous open-plan kitchen, dining and living room space that'll enjoy some commanding views of the valley below. Also here there's a playroom come TV room, an office, utility room, shower room and some all-important storage for surfboards and wetsuits. The bedroom wing starts with a 20-metre-long hallway, off which will be an ensuite guest room, bedrooms for each of the 3 children, and for Harry and Briani their own master suite at the end. What makes this house different from the Speyer original is its scale, bigger by a third, its Speyer on steroids. So to pull off something like this, you'd expect a budget in excess of £1 million, wouldn't you? How much is the house going to cost?
The budget at the moment is between 375 and 400.
Okay. Does that include the contingency?
Yes.
So it's 400 tops max?
Yes.
And it's being financed through...
Savings. We have a 90% mortgage on the land, which has left us with some cash to spend on the house. And as soon as we can get into the house, we can rent the cottage out.
You and your merry band are going to be here for how long, do you reckon?
We want to be in by Christmas.
This year?
Yes.
Ooh,
yeah.
Okay.
That's the plan. Because as soon as we can be in, we can rent out the little cottage as a holiday let, and then keep the income coming for finishing it.
Okay. So who's going to project manage?
I am. Yeah. Somehow.
Really?
Yeah.
Young family, house, land, equals a lot of hard work.
Yes.
But you're young.
Yeah.
And...
Enthusiastic and determined.
We're ready. Yeah.
ready. Harry and Briani are nothing if not ambitious. So I've been doing a bit of thinking about the cost of building. Given that a high-spec self-build comes in generally around about, say, £3,000 a square metre. So if you were to build the Speyer house today to modern building regs, it would come in around about £800,000. Thing is, Harry and Briani's house is a third bigger than that. They don't have anything like £800,000, let alone the £1 million plus it would probably cost to do. They've got 400,000. So to my mind, to try and build to that quality for that amount of money represents the ambitions of a delusional optimist. 4 weeks later, the concrete foundations have been poured and work starts on the blockwork that will support the steel frame. Harry's hired 2 hugely experienced local subbies for the duration of the build. Ken, known as the Bossman.
That was a bit of luck, wasn't it? Didn't have a cut one.
And Mark.
Half block or...
No, full instance from that.
Between them, they built over 40 houses, although nothing quite like this before.
Yeah, I'm a little bit in love with Ken and Mark at the moment. I want to sort of hug them and look after them and be with them, you know. Because they are the key to a happy life, which is getting this house built and getting a family out of the little one-roomed living space and into a proper family house.
Employing 2 experienced guys like Ken and Mark might well be the best move Harry has made here.
Well, I would say he's the boss.
Yeah, he's the boss. Yeah,
Yes?
boss, but,
Yeah.
but kind of friend, because you can have a laugh with him.
Yeah, but you guys, you've been around in the building trade for how long?
50 years.
50 years. So
Yes.
you've got something of an edge on him there.
Yes, a little bit of knowledge.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can put him straight, sometimes.
Ken just puts his foot down.
But he's all right about it. If we can find a cheaper way of doing it for him, obviously we talk it over with Harry and
Yeah.
we go down that road, you know.
But the knock-on of having just 2, albeit great, builders is that there's just 2 of them. 3 months into the tight 8-month schedule, all Harry has is the blockwork base for the steel frame.
I thought we'd be in by Christmas. The plan is to be in by Christmas. I'd love to be in by Christmas, but I don't know if that's going to happen or not now.
To my mind, an ambitious and bold lump of architecture like this is either going to need more money and manpower or more time. So it's a relief to see that in midsummer, Ken and Mark are joined by a steelwork team, setting out the first 20 lengths. Remarkably, there's a total of 75 in this building. Not the structural steels for the spare-inspired living space, though, but the more run-of-the-mill floor beams for the bedroom end. But bossman Ken has spotted a problem.
What's this beam you're actually doing here, then?
One of the steel beams that should sit on top of the blockwork walls isn't long enough.
Yeah, I thought, oh, we'll just get in today and put these nice ground steels in and have some lunch. But it's not quite as simple as that. This is the sign of things to come, I think.
That's 5 mil out with it, so yeah, that is actually where it ends, and then it fastens onto this upright.
They'll have to wait several weeks for a new beam to be made and galvanised, a delay they can ill afford. They're already 4 months into a tight 8-month schedule. This avoidable error is an early warning that Harry's inexperience as a project manager can threaten progress.
I'm responsible for the site measurements and what gets sent to the engineers. And there was a discrepancy. Maybe if it was a main contractor, he would have made absolutely sure that that didn't happen. But it did, and that was probably my fault. Yeah.
Structurally, it'll lose its integrity, so it'll have to go up a gauge. There's his gap.
Harry's humility is touching, but humility isn't going to deliver a £1 million house for peanuts.
Human ambition is a wonderful thing because it drives people to produce great projects like this, but it also can undermine them. On the whole, people only opt to build the projects they can afford.
North Cornwall has welcomed Harry and Briani, although their 400 grand steel surf house is yet to rise out of the ground. They're now 5 months into an 8-month programme, and progress is slow and subject to Harry's haphazard plans to bring an iconic idea in on a budget price. You all right?
Yeah. We had a quote for it all to be steel, all exposed, and it was coming in at about £80,000 to £90,000. So we've had to go back to the drawing board and find another way to create that look of the sort of industrial exposed steel.
And what is the solution then? How do you do that?
Putting the structural steel in, which is relatively small, to hold up the cantilevered box, but then attaching long beams of wood to the front of it and then wrapping that in aluminium. That's more affordable.
I kind of get that. It seems also to subvert the whole idea of the architecture on which it's based.
But we can't afford £90,000.
Yeah.
Our new idea is still structural, and I've seen pictures. I think it can work.
Great.
I can't help feeling Harry's new idea undermines the very architecture that inspired him. It was James Speyer's teacher, Mies van der Rohe, who pioneered floating steel and glass boxes that Harry so loves. His buildings were revolutionary because they revealed and celebrated materials like steel instead of hiding them behind skins of dummy materials like brick or stone. A lesson that maybe Harry ought to heed. With such uncertainty surrounding the architectural heart of this home, all energies go into erecting the more humdrum section, the bedroom end.
We wanted to build the whole house all together, but what's becoming apparent is that the practical end is almost a totally separate house now. Got to claw some time back. There's an underlying elephant in the room saying, get the bloody thing finished, because we need somewhere to live, you know.
At this rate, I wonder if Harry and Briani will ever do justice to their vision.
It does seem to me that on this project you kind of set yourself a number of challenges.
Maybe it's a little bit of being told you can't do something, or it being frowned upon for you to try, and then being able to prove otherwise. That's a challenge until you realise you've taken on too much, and then it just gets stressful and affects all of it, really.
Briani, is this too much, this project?
I want to say yes, but then I really want the house, so... But yes, I think it is. I think it is too much.
But maybe
Built.
ego got the better of us, or it's maybe got the better of me, or I don't know.
I wish we hadn't sort of set this goal that we have to achieve in terms of emulating that house. I suppose I didn't really know how purist Harry was going to be about sticking to that sort of spare house. Maybe he went into it slightly naively.
6 months in, this project's running badly behind. Harry's now under pressure, so he's brought in extra manpower to complement the veteran Ken, the boss man, and Mark.
So it's been Ken, Mark and I for 6 months doing all the groundworks. And now, ta-da, people. We've got Ollie, carpenter, Gabe, carpenter, and then Jonah on the roof with Mark. So we've gone from a team of 3 to 6, 7, and that's meant we've managed to get this up really quickly in the dry weather. Ollie runs his own building company and said, do you want a hand? He does hours with us on site, but then he also is helping me with the budget and project manage the thing. He's not free, mind, but he's a mate, but he's not free.
Building fundamentally simple. You must be careful not to overcomplicate it. It's glorified cave building. That's really all we're doing. You can get a bit tied up in fancy designs with twirls and twiddles and all that sort of stuff, and actually, it's a square box, so hopefully I can help him with that side of life.
By October, the bedroom end has sprung up. And there's more good news. After agonising over the design of the big living space, Harry's decided not to botch the steel frame, but honour James Speyer's design after all.
Having spoken to Kevin and having slept on it, we thought, well, it's kind of faking it. It's not really honest. It's not really in keeping with what we're trying to do. So we are now using steel, exposed steel.
And it's coming in on budget at £70,000, thanks to Harry's structural engineer, who's redesigned the steel frame with cheaper, off-the-shelf beams, as well as some more modest profiles where possible.
Doing a lot of head-scratching, we've managed to get within the price and keep that Speyer design.
If Harry can keep finding clever ways to emulate Speyer's architecture, then this place could be remarkable. But he's already spent over half of the 400 grand budget, so it's unlikely. By the end of the year, Harry and Briani aren't moving into their steel-framed surf house as they'd hoped, but at least they are celebrating another major milestone, the installation of the large floating steel frame, as long as Harry and his team can overcome one final snag.
The crane's about 3 foot too short, we think, to get to the cantilevered bit. And the risk is that we hold too much weight on the end of it and it'll topple.
It's the risk you run if you insist on building on the cheap. Harry could have hired a bigger crane, but it would have cost an extra £500 a day. The crane operator, Andrew, is seasoned, and he has a trick up his sleeve to extend the boom arm in the hope it'll just reach.
The further the boom comes down, the less you can lift. So with that extra 8 metres on, the boom can stay a bit more upright. So it should give you a bit of a compromise to how far out you can reach. If it goes over the limit, then I'll stop.
The steel frame consists of 40 pieces weighing up to 1.7 tonnes each. Of course, they have to fit together perfectly.
It's easy to think, well, you've got sodding great lumps of steel, you know, it doesn't matter whether it's a bit out or not. It really does matter.
Down, down, down. Ah, shit. We mustn't twist it.
Studs, roofs, floor levels. It's important that all of these details are spot on because all of these levels will follow all the way through the building. So big lumps, small margins. That's the challenge.
And yet, it has to be delicate.
It's all right, it's just... Oh, your bloody ears all right, man up, for fuck's sake. This is going to take forever to get going.
And they've still got the biggest pieces to go. The ones that make up the 18-metre-long span at the front that'll define the building.
So I'm most worried about, if they're too heavy, then the crane will topple. The crane is at his height, length and weight limit. Come on, 3 inches. Yes, yes. It's in.
Harry's gamble has paid off.
It's great. It looks just as I hoped it would be.
Who designed something like this, eh? That's right, isn't it? Nuts. Absolutely nuts. There we are. Hopefully by the end of the day it'll be done.
By the new year, the steel structure is complete, 6 months later than planned, but worth the wait.
Hello. How are you?
All right, thanks.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
And to
Happy
you.
New Year.
And to you.
Galvanised steel.
Yes, exposed.
It's the business, isn't it? This is very, very chunky.
It's chunky, but it's thinner than it was.
That's 4 millimetres thick, that steel. It's about as thick as a piece of hardboard.
Yep.
In fact,
Dude,
does it?
stop it! Yeah.
Does it wobble? Oh, it does!
does a bit.
It does wobble.
It does a bit.
It won't wobble when there's a house on top of it, though.
It's
still
probably
wobbly.
twice as deep as we need it to be structurally.
But by narrowing the gauge, you've saved yourself, what, altogether, how much?
We've saved about £20,000.
That's great, isn't it? It is still wobbling.
The steel certainly delivers the Speyer DNA Harry wanted. But where this structure differs from Speyer's house is in its scale. This place is 30% larger.
It is just bloody big.
But once it's filled,
No, Briani.
there's some internal walls.
It's
and
incredibly
some
big,
furniture.
this building.
I think it'll shrink.
Yeah.
There's no getting around the fact that this structure is going to require a great deal of glazing. And that is likely to be very expensive.
How much have you got budgeted for that?
36,000.
Yeah. For those two?
Or for the entire floaty box. We have had one quote for 80. Yeah. The glazing is the last big unknown, and we're hoping it won't finish us off.
Supersizing Speyer on such a shoestring budget is asking for trouble.
It's sort of too big for a family house, really. And they could have saved so much money if they made it just a little bit smaller. In fact, I reckon if weirdly this building, as it currently stands, overnight shrank in the rain by, say, 15, 20%, I don't think anybody tomorrow would notice the difference.
In North Cornwall, Harry and Briani are 3 months over schedule on their steel-framed surf house. And to make matters worse, an unprecedented snowstorm just adds to their woes.
The original plan was to move in at Easter into the bedroom end and then finish the rest. That might be a bit optimistic now. We have to be in soon, otherwise we'll run out of money. We've got to rent the cottage out. We can't be sitting in that cottage over the summer because that's the prime time to rent it out. And so we've got to be in there.
Their budget is now under a lot of pressure. Harry's anxiety is understandable.
I was hoping we'd spend around £400,000 on the house, and it's coming in already at about 450.
However, 2 weeks later, the stresses and strains of the project are suddenly thrown into perspective.
So a few days ago we heard some very sad news for everyone, which was that Ken, the boss man, has died, has passed away in his sleep at home. You know, he was just always so patient with us. We asked every day, you know, would be stupid questions, and he would just put up with it and teach us, and in his charming Cornish way. And everyone's very upset. Yeah, we'll really miss him. It's been a great shock, because he wasn't just a builder, he was a friend of ours too, and a friend of the family. How many did he build? Over 30?
Yeah, in excess of 30 houses he'd done over his years. whether they're all still standing to say. That's what Ken would say, whether they're still standing. Ken's attitude was, show's got to go on, and it will go on.
Easter arrives, and unsurprisingly, the bedrooms aren't remotely ready for Harry, Briani and the children to move into. Harry's stress levels are rising.
The cottage is booked out for holiday lets, and we need to get in the house, and we need to get the floor in, and we need to get the glazing in, and all deadlines have been pushed to their limit.
So Harry decides to take a significant gamble to rush things by pouring the screed floor before the house is weathertight, which is madness.
Work inside now stops for 3 weeks while this dries out properly. Hopefully we don't have too much rain between now and then, because it hates drips. If it drips in here, then you get these big pot marks, and this is our finished floor, so we don't want big holes.
Three weeks on, and by sheer luck, the gamble with the weather has paid off, so far. But with the roof still not finished, Harry chances the wrath of the building gods yet again by forcing Mark to plaster the bedrooms.
If it rains and if your water does come in, then basically this is done for. It's plastered, a lot of it gone. We'll lose the plasterboard, the plaster with it. But Harry's insistent. He wants us to keep pushing on, regardless. It's not my choice by any stretch of your imagination. It's totally the wrong way around to do it, but Harry wants to do it, and at the end of the day, as I keep saying, he's a paymaster, so you do what he wants.
Meanwhile, the 4-metre tall windows for the living space have arrived, ready to be installed. Only it turns out there's a lot less glass in this building than the one they set out to emulate.
We've had to lose a lot of the glass at the front and at the sides, and that makes it look less like the Speyer house, and that's been quite painful. We were getting quotes of between 80 and 100. I mean, that was just too high. We couldn't, it's not even a starting point, and we had budget for about 40, 45. So we had to find another way of reducing the cost, and the obvious thing to do was to reduce the amount of glass, which is what we've done. Yeah, that is painful because it's a diversion away from the Speyer house.
Blimey. The relationship between this home and the Speyer house is becoming ever more tenuous. I hope Harry doesn't live to regret it. But there's another more pressing problem to attend to. The consequence of Harry having already poured the floor is that the installers have less room to fit the glass.
The floor shouldn't be there, because we asked for the floor not to be poured until we've got the glass in, because there's a minimal distance to get the glass in, about 30 mil we're talking to get the glass in, which is not a lot. So we're going to have to bring the glass in a bit askew to miss the steel at the head. If you touch that glass and a bit of steel about this sort of force, the glass goes whoosh, and it's all over, because the edges are the most fragile part of the glass. Once they're in, they're brilliant to take a bullet. It's like flying a kite.
Installing the first piece is a modest struggle.
So be careful there. And just watch that corner on the steel grip ring. There's no metal down there, Dino, is there? Stop, stop, stop there, stop there. Land it there. Oh, happy days. We'll make it look hard.
But with the second piece, it's not just the raised floor they need to deal with. There's a 2-ton steel column in the way too.
Right, go down on the head. Down. I don't like this one. Stop there, stop there, stop there, stop there. The opening is too small to get this glass in. And it's just the awkwardness of this steel being here. And this glass had to go in first because we couldn't have got that glass in because the floor's being laid. And now that crane can't lift that because it's tight there with the strap. So we've just got to go to the old-fashioned way of manpower just to get that last critical lift.
All 280 kilos are pivoting on a piece of plywood.
Right. Just keep it off that steel, Bryn.
The edge is millimetres away from the steel column.
Right, go down on the head. We've got to try and swing it right in past that pillar, and then get rid of the crane. After 3, 1, 2, 3. Push it to me, lads. Push it to me. Keep the head out of the steel. Right, okay. Release the sucker. Get rid of the sucker. Fingers out. Stop there. Stop there. Stop there. Whew. 25 years of glazing. That's got to be one of the top drawn air ones, the hardest bits of glass I've put in. But yeah, we've got it. Sound.
It's taking a long time. We were supposed to be over halfway by now, but we're not. So I'm a bit worried about time. I just want to get it all in today.
5 more mil, lads. But people that build their own houses and stuff, they don't realise that if they do floors and put ceilings up and expect the glass to go in, big bits of glass, heavy bits of glass with a crane, that's where you get your problems.
It takes 14 hours and a Herculean effort by the window fitters, but all 9 pieces are finally in place. This building has at last its eyes, and now that it's properly watertight, you can begin to see what the main living space could be.
Oh, heavens. Oh, welcome to the Southwest Visitor Centre. It's vast.
What do you think?
There's a lot of everything. You look quite small in it. This is so big. I mean, this single room is one of the largest I've seen. I suppose it's an obvious question, isn't it? Why did you put the glazing in the corner and not there? So walking in
Yes.
to this point, you kind of feel that the building is restraining you
Yes.
rather than engaging you. But that's a very, very deliberate choice.
It is very deliberate. We had to lose a lot of the glass at the front and at the sides. The quotes were just too high.
I have to say this, I think more men than women desire to make monuments to ourselves.
I agree. This does feel like monument making, but monument that we want to share with people. You know, we want our family and friends.
It's a generous monument.
But then is that showing off? Maybe that's just because...
There's an element of that.
3 weeks later, and there's a final push to get the bedroom end of the monument ready for Harry and Briani to move into, or rather camp out in, until the rest of the house is finished.
We've had to really push to get in this soon. We needed to vacate because we've got guests coming this weekend. It has been a big push to get to this point.
But the house is still being built out of sequence. The roof's not finished, and the boiler's not even installed yet.
I think everybody starts self-builds with good intentions. Bollocks. Probably Harry didn't understand what is involved in building a house like this. It's a set ways you build a house, and we're doing it totally different.
Now that the bedroom end is just about habitable, the builders move on to the vast living space. However, the income from their holiday cottage is not keeping pace with their ever-mounting costs, so there's a pressure to fit it all out as cheaply as possible.
We've got these bloody great walls we've got to put something on, and instead of plasterboarding, plastering, painting, 3 coats of paint, skirting board, we've instead come up with this idea of putting ply straight on the walls. So it's cheap to buy and takes a bit longer to put up, but with the shadow gap, I think it's looking really smart.
Harry had the idea for the panelling for the timber walls, but that was it really. He bought the timber and said, let's go for it. Yeah, just make it up as we go along, really.
Tom's done really well just executing something like this without a drawing or a picture or an idea, really. Just let's get it up and see what it looks like.
Harry the gambler continues to tiptoe a fine line between creativity and cost-cutting. His bravado is breathtaking.
I know I've given Harry a hard time over this project, over his almost cavalier attitude in terms of planning and the size of this building. And he is guilty, of course. He is guilty of so many things. He's guilty of demanding too much of his family. He's guilty of actually exacting too much commitment from everybody building the darn thing. He's guilty of pushing too hard, of trying too hard, of reaching for the stars. In other words, like all of us, he is simply guilty of being human.
It's 15 months since Harry and Briani set out to build a surf house near the North Cornish coast. Their inspiration? An American modernist home in Chicago, designed by James Speyer, whose architectural style was immortalised in the 80s film Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, just look at that. Look at that, isn't it pretty? Not very much like the Speyer building, though. Not now it's got that great big orange wall of cladding at the front. More of a long-distance homage.
What is undoubtedly Speyer-like, and all the better for it, is the chunky exposed steel frame of the living space, floating over the valley. And it's the real thing, not some other material like timber dummied up. But that's where the similarity with Speyer ends. The more pragmatic bedroom end is rooted firmly to the ground, and there's a lot less glass than Speyer used too.
Oh, yeah, really well, really well. Nice to see you.
Hello.
Hello, Briani. Well, no, I've seen it from across the valley, and it looks good.
I think we're happy with the final result, aren't we?
Yeah, very happy with the end result.
Worth the wait?
Worth the wait, yeah.
It looks like it's really nestling.
Yeah, we really wanted it to settle into the landscape and not stick out like a spaceship.
And so, how is it? How's life?
It's great. Yeah, it's so nice to be in. It's so nice to be living in the full space, having just lived in the bedrooms for so long.
It's a huge relief.
The cladding is on.
The cladding's on, and we like the larch. It feels like it's more natural because all the glass and steel started to stick out a bit.
That's interesting, isn't it? Big glass steel house. Stick it in the middle of some woodland, and it says, actually, no, I'd like a little bit of the wood
Yeah.
back. It's not at all suggestive of Speyer. Much gentler, actually.
Speyer was pure glass.
Yeah.
And perhaps a bit impractical, but it's what inspired us to create this, and this is our version.
I'd like to take a closer look.
Inside, the house immediately delivers a theatrical punch with that 13-metre-long skylight that runs into the living space.
Oh yeah, this is nice. That great slot of light down the building leading you forward. That leads you into this space. Quite theatrical and also quite ecclesiastical, isn't it, you know? Wow. Very beautiful. These two walls, we talked a lot about these being kind of, as it were, replacements for glazing, but I have to say, you don't question that coming in, partly because of this slot which leads into that thin vertical pane, which is beautiful, and partly because, in fact, the cladding treatment is so nice on them. And that can't have been cheap.
It was labour time.
Yeah.
It was a labour of love from Tom the carpenter.
Yeah.
It took probably a bit less than it would have been to plaster the whole lot, but we much prefer it.
Do you wish that you'd just skimmed the ceiling and...
I like the texture of it. I really do. It's got that sort of warehousey feel to it.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
And the space, it shrunks, actually, from being the largest room I've ever been in to, annoyingly, something which seems 20% smaller now. That's rather clever.
Harry and Briani have pulled off this annoying feat by filling their massive living space with massive stuff.
Everything is super scale here.
This is what we've been looking forward to most, I think, having our sofa in and being able to sit down and look out over the trees.
This is an amazing thing. I don't know where the idea came from.
Well, we came from a sort of practical need for a room divider and a bit of sound absorption. And so we thought books absorb sound.
Make a bookcase.
Make a bookcase.
Wow. This thing moves, does it?
Yeah, it moves.
Can we, how easy is it to move?
It's going to take a big initial shove, I think.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And then we're off.
And off it goes. Oh, yes. I like that. This is a wall that moves as opposed to a room divider.
And the scale of everything is oversized here, like the plywood kitchen.
So this kitchen is also big. This is 3.5 meters maybe long?
Yeah, 3.5, I think.
But in this building, looks somehow to scale.
That's normal.
And equally, the cupboards are 1.5 miles high.
Yeah. Well, they're tall.
And the table over there, which is a big table, it's 6 foot long, right? Looks tiny.
But the largest, the tallest things here are the 4-metre tall windows. Their gift is a view of sky and landscape that is totally immersive.
That is my favourite view. View out into the forest. We're on a cantilever at this point.
Yes.
It just feels like you're flying, and you've just got this junction of the glass into the corner with no support for the lid above, which is glorious. Interesting, isn't it? Because of the height of the glass, you've got almost no interruption between you and it. It's quite a beautiful little Eden you have.
Also in the floating steel section is an office for Harry and Briani. And in the bedroom end, along the 20-metre-long corridor, sit the children's rooms, a guest room, and outside the main bedroom, a powerful bespoke stencil painting by a local artist.
I don't know if I lived here, whether or not, after a few sherbets in the evening, trying to crawl along this corridor. The last thing I saw before I went to bed was this at night. I'm not sure how well I'd fare. But you haven't got anything like this in your bedroom, have you? Is it a haven of serenity?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I remember seeing this being plastered while the roof was not on.
That is true, we did it backwards, but I don't think it shows.
It's rather heartening to find something which is much more snug, private and enclosed.
Yeah.
In other words, thank goodness these rooms are normal-sized. This is a hybrid house, part timber surf hut, part modernist whim, emulating an American masterpiece. But on this Cornish hill, it seems to have assumed one coherent identity. Construction took 8 months longer than expected. But where did that 400 grand budget finally land?
How much have you spent? Do you know?
I know we're at between 5 and 510.
Wow. So actually that's around about 1,600, 700 pounds a square metre, which, you know, it's very good value. You know, I ask these questions about money and time, but actually, of course, in the end, they don't matter in relation to the people. I think you've had a relatively happy project. What's his secret in terms of that?
I think he's good at selecting, he's good at spotting talent and, you know, sort of gaining their faith in his vision. And I think that's what's kept people going, you know, when it's been tough. Yeah, I mean, I think when we were really sapped of energy, I did think it probably does feel like Harry's given birth to this house. You know, it is that, it has been that long and painful.
Ken and Mark were your midwives?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Invaluable midwives.
I think you followed the best advice in the end, which was to rely on really good people to help you.
Yeah, I accepted my limits early on this, and relying on other people is what's quite nerve-wracking because you put your budget and your life in their hands in a way, but if you've got good people, then that's... I just love that everything you look at, you know who did it, and I hope that we'll remember, you know, because... Well, it was Ken, poor old Ken. I hope that... I don't know. Anyway, sorry.
This is his work. Great buildings are only great because of the love, the energy that human beings put into them.
Work was a large part of Ken's life, and hopefully this is a good legacy that he leaves behind. He deserves the credit.
Look, I know I was a bit hard on Harry for the duration of this project, but by the same token, I've been hugely impressed by his humility, his readiness to admit blame, his preparedness to learn, his generosity of spirit in taking an idea which was, well, at best eccentric, you know, an inspiration from one building he's never visited,
and then sharing it with everybody else on the project, enthusing them, inspiring them. You know, this isn't the house that Harry and Briani built. It's the house that Harry and Briani and countless others built together. People like Jamie and Tom and Ollie and Mark and Ken. There is a lot of their love in this place, and it is the better for it.
With our children, their allergies are so severe that they could be really, really ill.
Everything we put in the house is geared to our family's health.
Wow, it looks like some terrible disaster movie.
It's been very stressful, very stressful.
We don't know if it's going to work. All we can do is try.
It will only all be worthwhile if the kids' health improves. If.